The most common route into football management is, rather unsurprisingly, having been a professional footballer and then transitioning into coaching and management. It has become increasingly clear over the years that one's ability on the pitch is of absolutely no bearing on one's talents in the dugout, and some of the finest managers in world football right now were really mediocre or worse than mediocre players themselves. This video has been requested multiple times and has often been among the top comments. Ordinarily, that would prompt me into making the video pretty swiftly, but I've put it off since I did a video on 7 managers who were useless as players way back in September 2017, when this channel was only a couple of months old. Crikey, look at the state of that thumbnail. But since there have been so many requests, and I wouldn't wish having to watch the monstrosities that are my early videos upon anyone, I decided to bite the bullet and finally oblige. To distinguish the two videos, this most assuredly isn't managers who were rubbish as footballers. These are managers who played literally no competitive football whatsoever. Even semi-pro or academy football rules you out this 7, so there'll be no Brendan Rodgers, no Maurizio Sarri, and no Arrigo Sacchi. This is a 7 that have as much, if not less playing experience than those of you who are watching this video. Here are 7 managers who never played football. Avram Graham. You have to say that just having looked at Avram Graham, it somehow doesn't seem particularly surprising to hear that he never played football. Probably best known to our viewers for his friendship with Roman Abramovich and his stint in charge of Chelsea, Grant has been in football management for 47 years, despite the fact he's only 64. Grant's family came from Poland, where they had what could be described as a pretty tough couple of decades, although that would be a seriously gross understatement. The family fled Poland to the Soviet Union to avoid the gas chambers, only to be exiled to Siberia by the Soviets, where most of the family died. The surviving members resettled in Israel after the war, where Grant was born, and he began coaching his hometown club Hapoel Petach Tikva's youth team when he was aged only 18. He held that role for the next 14 years before being appointed the club's first team boss. He did a magnificent job, ending Petach Tikva's 25-year exile from the top flight, almost winning a top flight title, and winning their first Israeli Cup. Success at Maccabi Tel Aviv and Maccabi Haifa followed before Grant was appointed as manager of the Israeli national team in 2002. Israel failed to qualify for Euro 2004 or the 2006 World Cup, and Grant left the national team to become technical director at Portsmouth. He then took over as director of football at Chelsea, and 2 months later, he was appointed first-team manager following Jose Mourinho's departure. Roman Abramovich handed his friend a 4-year deal off the back of an 18-game unbeaten run, but following defeats in the finals of both the League Cup and the Champions League, his contract was terminated at the end of the season. Grant has since managed the likes of Portsmouth, West Ham and Ghana, and he most recently had a brief stint as interim boss of Indian Super League side North East United FC. Brian Kerr. Another former national team boss, Brian Kerr managed the Republic of Ireland from 2003 to 2005, despite having never really kicked a ball in anger as a player himself. Kerr realised early on that despite his interest in football and boxing, he wasn't adept enough at either to turn professional. So at the age of 13 he began coaching, with his first job being the Crumlin United under-11 side. In 1974 he took over as manager of Shamrock Rovers B team before becoming reserve team manager and eventually assistant manager in Shelburne. In 1986, Kerr began a 10-year love affair with St Patrick's Athletic, where he is still adored to this day. Not only did Kerr lead St Pat's to a Leinster Cup title and a first top-flight title since 1956, he also personally invested in the club and helped fundraise in order to stave off liquidation, selling almost their entire squad, rebuilding, and winning a second league title. Ireland recruited Kerr to coach their youth teams, who had never won a major trophy before, but under Kerr's stewardship, they won both the under-18 and under-16 European Championships, as well as winning bronze at the 1997 World Youth Championships. Those accomplishments saw him named as Mick McCarthy's successor with the national team, but the association proved short-lived following failure to qualify for Euro 2004 or the 2006 World Cup. He later managed the Faroe Islands from 2009 to 2011, but has been out of management since then. Andre Villas-Boas. One of the best known non-playing managers in world football, up until his move to Chelsea, everything Andre Villas-Boas touched seemed to turn to gold. The great-grandson of a Portuguese aristocrat as well as having an English grandmother from Stockport, at the age of 16, Villas-Boas was living in the same apartment block as Porto manager Bobby Robson. Following an argument between the two, Robson asked Villas-Boas to join his coaching team. He acquired a UEFA C coaching licence at the age of 17, a B licence at 18, and both an A and Pro licence at 19. Following a brief stint as technical director of the British Virgin Islands national team, Villas-Boas became Jose Mourinho's assistant manager, following him from Porto to Chelsea and Inter Milan. He started out on his own managerial journey a decade ago with Academica, aged 31, taking the club from last place to 11th place, 10 points clear of relegation. That alerted senior figures at Porto who already knew Villas-Boas well, and he joined the club as a manager in 2010. In a single season in charge, Villas-Boas won a quadruple, including a Premier League title and the Europa League, becoming the youngest manager to win a major European trophy. Villas-Boas then had less awe-inspiring spells, with both Chelsea and Tottenham perhaps a case of a little too much too young, and he took over at Marseille in the summer, following stints in Russia and China. Ron Nodes. Whilst all the others in this seven so far have been managers who got into coaching very young, Ron Nodes' route into management was a rather different one. It should be noted at this point, in case it isn't already obvious, that this seven isn't really in any particular order. Born in London, Ron Nodes owned several golf clubs in the southeast of England. He's best known, however, for his association with a few association football clubs. Nodes owned non-league Southall, Wimbledon, Crystal Palace and Brentford over a period of more than 3 decades. His finest achievement at Wimbledon was hiring Dave Bassett, although Nodes left, before reaping the rewards of that appointment. He led Crystal Palace to the most successful era in the club's history, reaching an FA Cup final and finishing 3rd in the top flight, thanks to another good appointment in the form of Steve Coppell. In addition to some good appointments, however, Nodes also made some rather unusual ones, most notably himself. He acted only as caretaker manager at Crystal Palace, with the team's relegation already confirmed, which was perhaps less unusual, but he decided to give himself the top job permanently at Brentford. In fairness, he did guide the Bees to promotion from the 3rd Division and safety in the 2nd Division, before resigning as both chairman and manager in 2000. He sold his majority shareholding in 2006 and died of lung cancer in 2013, despite being a non-smoker. Bill Struth. Undoubtedly the most successful manager who never played football in terms of trophies won, Bill Struth is the second most successful manager in the history of European football. The Scottish boss won 30 trophies in 34 years as a first-team manager at Rangers, which means he trails only compatriot Alex Ferguson in the trophy stakes. Born in Edinburgh, Stewth competed as a professional runner until his 30s, when he began coaching first at Hearts and later at Clyde. In 1914, he joined Rangers as an assistant manager, and 6 years later, he became the club's second first-team manager after the first, William Wilton, drowned in a boating accident. Aged 45 at the time, he would continue to manage the team until he was 79, just 2 years before his death. During that time, Stewth won 18 Scottish League titles, 10 Scottish Cups, and 2 Scottish League Cups. Not bad for a retired runner who never played football. A bust of Stewth has been on display outside the Bill Struth main stand at Ibrox since 2005. Leonardo Jardim. Probably the most high-profile manager in world football right now that never played the game, Leonardo Jardim did a magnificent job at Monaco between 2014 and 2018. Born in Venezuela to Portuguese parents, Jardim's family relocated to Madeira when Jardim was at a very young age. He trained to be a PE teacher, coaching children, a women's team, and even handball. His managerial career began at the age of 27 when he got a job as assistant manager at local Madeiran club Camacho. A couple of years later, he was handed the top job, which he held for 5 years, before joining mainland divisional rival Chaves. He won promotion into the second tier with Chaves before joining Beira-Mar, with whom he won another promotion, this time into the Primeira Liga. With a growing reputation in the Portuguese game, Jardim's next club was Braga, where he finished 3rd before heading to Olympiacos. He returned to Portugal to join Sporting before being snapped up by Monaco in 2014. Jardim facilitated the rise of several young players in the tiny city-state, finishing 3rd in each of his first 2 seasons before winning a Ligue 1 title. The likes of Fabinho, Bernardo Silva and Kylian Mbappe starred for Monaco as they won the title and reached the semi-finals of the Champions League, before that squad was dismantled piece by piece. Jardim left Monaco following a poor start in October 2018, but he returned in January 2019 after his replacement Thierry Henry did even worse. Carlos Alberto Parreira. Some truly great footballers from Didier Deschamps to Mario Zagallo and Franz Beckenbauer have gone on to win the World Cup as managers, but only one man has won the most prized trophy in football despite never having played the sport. That man is Carlos Alberto Parreira, who also holds the distinction of having been to 6 different World Cup finals as manager, which is more than any other manager. Like Jardim, Alberto Parreira trained as a PE teacher, and when Ghana's government had inquired to Brazil's foreign ministry about a coach, the message was forwarded to Rio State University. The university recommended one of its brightest pupils, a 23-year-old Carlos Alberto Parreira, and in 1968, he became manager of the Ghanaian national team. Parreira played a pivotal role in the development of football in Ghana, and the nation is now a powerhouse within the African game. A managerial nomad, Parreira has since been appointed 25 times, although not by 25 different clubs or nations, often having had multiple stints with teams. His finest achievement undoubtedly came in 1994, when he led Brazil to their first world title since 1970 in the United States, being named as World Soccer Magazine Manager of the Year for 1994 as well. Now aged 76, Parreira most recently managed South Africa at the 2010 World Cup, later serving as a technical director, but he appears to have left management since 2012. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, in fact please do, and make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens, and head over to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com to have your mind blown by the best football book ever written.